Hi, I'm Alice Keeler. I am a math teacher and I am a math teacher and I love using quizzes and I love using backed. Oh my goodness. Hi, I'm Alice Keeler. I am a math teacher. I love using quizzes and I love to use Google Classroom. We're going to be talking about Google Classroom at www.backtoclassroom.com. We're going to be sharing using the hashtag back to classroom. So if you're on any social media platforms, please feel free to use hashtag back to classroom to share out tips about Google Classroom and also products that work really well with Google Classroom. I love using Moat and I use Schoolitics and lots of other great tools that help me to enhance my Google Classroom experience. So if you'll join us at www.backtoclassroom.com, you can join the Facebook group to share ideas and to ask questions. We can further this conversation back on Facebook or use the hashtag back to classroom, and we can interact on other platforms as well. So today we're going to talk about Quizizz. That's Quizizz. That is one of my favorite tools. I use it a lot. I like to say if robots can grade it, they should. And we know that gamification is motivating. And yet, a lot of the things that we put online are just plain boring. Why? Quizizz is available and it's free, and you can use this to engage students, get data. And for me, that's one of the key things. Why am I going paperless? Why am I using this digital tool? Not so I can be paperless, but getting data helps me to better address student needs. I know much more accurately and quickly who needs help. How do I reteach? What do I need to do to address what students are weak in or address what their strengths are and help them to move forward? How do I differentiate? How do I give different students different things if the burden constantly falls on me to grade it? So we're going to take a look at Quizizz today. Let's bop over there. That is Quizizz. It is freemium. It is free and it works really well with Google Classroom. In fact, I like to say Quizizz has some of the best Google Classroom integration on the market. And I just got an email yesterday that says they came out with all of these great new features that I'm really excited about, and I literally have not had a chance to try them yet. So Quizizz to me is always getting better. Lots of great things. It is freemium, which means that there are some paid versions. So the lessons are a part of the paid version, and to be able to have a question bank is part of the paid version. And what really gets me to, I have my school pay for the pro account, is that I can not have a due date. So there's no average time to learn something. Why is every student on the same pacing guide? And honestly, it's because there's only one of me and there's only so much that I can do. So using digital tools helps me to be more responsive to students who takes them longer. That doesn't make them less intelligent. It just means they think about it longer. And a lot of other reasons as well that I love using Google Classroom. I love using Quizizz to allow for that flexibility with students who need it. So I'm going to go here. I'm on quizizz.com. I'm going to type that down into the chat, quizizz.com. And I'm going to click login. And I'm going to continue with my Google account if you have one. And of course you have one because we are going back to Classroom. And back to Classroom, Google Classroom obviously is a Google product, and you have a Google login. So I just log in with my Google account. Now the very first thing that you want to do is here on the side is you want to go to Classes. So you want to click on Classes on the left-hand side and come up, and it says import or update your class. So you do want to choose Classroom up at the top. We are looking at how Quizizz works with Google Classroom. So all of you are going to want to click that Classroom icon. On the left-hand side, go to Classes. Before you do anything else, go to Classes, and then you're going to want to sync your classes. So I'm going to go further and do more. And here's the sample one. Now it says on here to require students to enter a guardian's email address so that the the guardians receive some progress reports. Honestly, I don't do this, but I'm also at the high school level. I feel fairly confident most of them will just put in a fake parental email address. Anyway, the scores from Quizizz import automatically into Classroom. And that's something I just really love. It works really great. And so through the Guardian summaries or the progress reports that I create in Schoolytics, parents can see how students are doing on these without necessarily having to have the progress reports from Quizizz. But that is totally up to you. If you want to have the students enter in a Guardian email address, please check that checkbox and save. So now it is syncing. Now the first few weeks of school, I do this every day. If I go to Quizizz, I first click on classes and I sync, get those rosters synced. Once my roster's settled, I don't do it as often until someone complains. I'm like, oh, yes, you have joined my class since I had last synced. Okay, so I'm able to see on the side that I have my classes, that they have students in there. There's nothing else that I really need to do. I just need to make sure that I go to Classroom, the icon up there, and I import and sync, save, just syncing those rosters. So that is a key thing. Now, whatever you teach, someone has already made a Quizizz for it. Someone has already made one. So let's take a look at what that looks like. All right, come on, finish thinking. Here we go. So up at the top, you see it says search, and notice what you are searching. I want to search the Quizizz library. My library are quizzes that I have created or that I've used in the past. And if you have used one that you've pushed out to your students, you would search in reports so you can see how they did. So it has a really nice reporting feature in there. So I'm going to do Quizizz library, and I am going to look up quadrilaterals since I teach math. It doesn't matter what you teach. Whatever you teach, there's going to be 25,000 Quizzizz that someone else has already made. You don't need to recreate the wheel. Quadrilateral. I'm going to choose quadrilaterals, and I'm going to be able to find them on here. There's a ton of them. How many does this say? I have 36,950 results. So I would just use one of these. Has to be good enough. It has to be good enough. Here's the paradigm shift that I take when I use a tool like Quizizz. We don't do our work till we get to the bottom of the page. I set some sort of a pass rate. We do it until we're successful. So I gave a Quizizz to my students today, and my pass rate was only 60%. It's the beginning of the year. I mostly just wanted to see what they knew and what I needed to go over. So I asked them to do 60%. And the next time we do it, I'll ask them to have a higher rate. So I just choose what I want it to be, and I ask them, take it until you get this percentage, not take this. That's a big difference for me. So if they have to take it 4, 5, 6 times, well, that's what you needed to do in order to show me that you knew those concepts. It also gets students to ask for help, because if you let them just get a low score, they'll just take the low score and be like, oh, I'm done. Okay, but you got these wrong. Let's go over them. Well, what's my motivation for that? So to me, the paradigm shift is really, I can have students learn more by using a tool like Quizizz, because we're going to do it until we pass. Okay, so then I'm going to come down. I'm going to choose the one that I want. So I have this quadrilateral angles. I just click on it. So I've clicked on it. This is the one I want to use. If you like it exactly the way that it is, you're like, oh, this looks pretty good. Someone did a good job on this. Now, here's a key thing with the Quizizz is by default, the question scramble and the ABCD scrambles. So if they retake it, they're not memorizing the answer is A. Even if they retake it with the exact same questions, they have to do some sort of identification. It's still better for learning. It's still better for learning. Now, if you have the super account, you can have a bank of questions. If you have the super account, you can have a bank of questions, and it picks a random however many. So this morning I had 50-something questions in my bank, and they had to only do 5. And I only wanted them to they only required to get 3 of the 5 correct. So then they just randomly picked 5 out of there. But that is because I have the super account. If you don't have the super account, if you have 50 questions, it will give them all 50 questions. So do be aware of that. But if you like it the way that it is, you simply need to choose assign homework. Now, live quiz is super fun. I definitely use this. I love it because as I see student weaknesses when we do it together, we review now. We go over it. We miss number 5, we go over number 5. I'm not a big fan of doing it at the end because there's a disconnect, like, well, I'm done with that. Why are we going over this? As opposed to like, oh, how did I get that wrong? Like, let's go over that right now. And I think it sticks a little bit better. So I totally love and use Start a Live Quiz, but I'm going to choose the asynchronous learning option to assign homework. So I'm going to click on that, and you're going to choose a deadline. Now, this no deadline is one of the features of the Super account. So I like to use this no deadline. This is probably my number one reason why I'm willing to have my principal buy this for me, because the free part is really good. They have so many great options with the free. I think you get all of the question types with the free one. The restriction's not on the question types, but rather on whether or not you can have a deadline and whether or not you have a bank that'll pull out of a bank. So that's up to you, but the free version is very good. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose a due date and time, switch that up. And then I don't click on assign. I'm going to click on select. So I'm going to select which class I want to do this for. And now this is a pretty new feature, and I'm very excited about it. Instead of it importing their score out of 100, I can change that. So do I want it to be an ungraded task? Do I want it to be out of 50? I'm going to enter this manually. I'm going to say that it is worth 7 points. So I'm going to make this worth 7 points, and I number all my assignments. Number 056, quadrilaterals practice. Now, don't close it yet. Don't close it yet. It's kind of subtle. You see it says schedule and description. Schedule and description. So I'm going to click on that. It's going to drop it down. It's going to allow me to put more details in here. You need to retake this as many times as it takes for you to pass, right? I want them to pass. Passing for this is 70%. I like to make it up, right? What do I think they're going to do? Sometimes the questions aren't always written really awesome. They get it wrong, not because they didn't know it, but because the question could have been worded better. So sometimes I do 100%. Usually I do something less than that. And then if you want to schedule it for the future, you can pick a custom date and time. And I'm just going to click next. Okay, so now it has been scheduled for or assigned for this class with this score, and I expanded it out to write a description. Now let's come down here and look at these other options. You see this has the lightning bolts on it for the adaptive learning. That is the question bank. I love, love, love this feature, but it is a pro feature. So I'm going to skip that and come on down here. How many times do you want to let them take it? I always use unlimited. I personally always use unlimited because success builds success, and I want you to be successful. So that's why I'm using Quizizz, is because I can't grade an unlimited amount of times, but Quizizz never gets tired, never gets tired. It's like, let's do it again. And I want to help students to be successful. So let's go over some of the ones you got wrong. Now take it again. Do I want them to show the answers during the activity? I think it is better to show them during the activity than after. Because again, for the same reason that I mentioned before, you're emotionally invested for about 5 seconds. So you answer the question, and then you find out if you got it right or wrong. And in those 5 seconds, you're like, what do you mean I got this wrong? And they'll raise their hand, they'll ask for help, they'll try and figure out why did I get this wrong? Whereas you get the answers at the end. The problem with getting the answers at the end is that it gives them a score, and they have a score, they focus on the score, and the feedback becomes less impactful. So my personal preference is I like to do activities that show the answers during the activity, which is why I prefer Quizizz over using Google Forms. Hey, Lauren, thanks for joining. Glad you're able to drop in and show answers after the activity. You see that I do both, right? So it gives it to them as they go, and then they can review it at the end. So those are optional. Obviously, that's how I do it. That doesn't mean that's how you have to do it. So go ahead and read through all of those settings. This is gamified. It has fun graphics. It has fun music. And it is amazing how much that really helps students. So this Powerups, we know gamification helps motivate users. So the Powerups gives them some extra bonuses and fun things. Again, up to you if you want to include those. Some of my students really suffer from anxiety, and the timer stresses them out. So I will turn off the timer sometimes. Usually even my anxiety students, they come around and they understand that the timer does not impact their score. Your score will not be higher or lower because of the timer. The timer is simply there for the leaderboard gamification. And so do you want to show the leaderboard? Usually that's pretty fun. Definitely, I always shuffle the questions and the answer options. I want the 1, 2, 3 to scramble, and I want the ABC to scramble, because you're going to retake it till you pass, but we're not going to memorize that the answer to number 3 was D. You got to process what's going on here and find that answer. Do you want to let them have a redemption question? They got it wrong, brings it back to them. They have a system for doing that. And playing music, and whether or not you want to show memes, that's one of the things. The memes part is what makes it so fun, is when they get it right or wrong, shows them a fun little meme. I always leave that on as well. You can create your own meme sets. So you can assign students to create memes, and you can upload those and use them in your Quizizz activities. Usually though, I just let it be random. And then I can go ahead and click assign. So I'm going to do this again for you. There we go. It has pushed to Google Classroom. So let's go take a look at that. I'm going to go to classroom.google.com. And from the home tiles page, I am looking for that sample class that I pushed it to. And internet, do it. Oh, there we go. Sample should be in this one. And you can see right here on the stream that it did push. You can see in there, I'm going to go to the classwork page. It's going to be here as well. The thing that I was not able to do from Quizizz was choose the topic and assign it to a topic. So I will need to drag that down into whatever topic that you want that to be in. I'm going to use the 3 dots. I'm going to edit this, because you'll notice you didn't have all of the options when you pushed it. So you can do all students, number of points. You can set the due date, do the topic, add a rubric, and attach resources in there if you would like. And you'll notice it has 2 links. One of them is the mobile link, and one of them is the web link. So it just depends on which device they're using. The mobile link is exactly the same as the web link, other than the screen is skinnier to accommodate a handheld device. I'm going to go ahead and save. So let's do this again. I'm going to be in Quizizz.com. I am going to search for pronouns. So we have here this pronouns activity, and you can choose copy and edit. If you want to modify, you're like, I like it, but not 100%, I would like to change a little bit, you can go ahead and click copy and edit, so you don't have to assign it as is. But I'm going to assign it as is. I'm going to choose assign homework. And then I'm going to choose my deadline. When do they have to do it by? Again, the no deadline is the super account pro user. So I'm going to skip past that. This is the one that's a little tricky. You got to select what class you want to push it to. You want to decide how many points it's out of. And then title it. And don't forget, click on schedule and description. Schedule and description. Put my success criteria in there. Now you'll notice that when I did it the first time, it posted right to Google Classroom. It put the links in here. And what's the good news is when the students do the quizzes, it's going to import in their scores. It's going to mark it as done. It's going to bring their score into Google Classroom. And if they did it 3 times, I'm going to see 3 reports in Google Classroom. It's going to attach a report every time they take it. So if they took it 3 times, I'm going to know they took it 3 times. It's going to show me all 3 reports. I can open up any of those reports, and I can review those questions with the student if I need to. But what if I want it to be a draft? See, it says, when should this start? And the default is now. And that's why it was not a draft. It just published it right in there. If you want it to be a draft, you need to pick a custom date and time. So if I want this to be on the 9th, and I'm going to post it at 6 a.m. next, and then keep scrolling and just read through all of the options. Usually I just leave all the options the same, and I click assign, and now it's there. It is in Google Classroom, except this time it is posted as a draft. One of the things that helps me do is to be able to schedule the multiple classes so that I can edit it before it gets pushed out. All right, I'm going to refresh. It should be right up here, but as a draft. And there it is, right? You can see that it is not assigned yet. It says it's scheduled for September 9th. I'm going to go ahead and edit this so I can then set the topic today, and I can add any attachments or things that I want to add onto it. I can do all of those Google Classroom things just like I normally would, and I'm going to go ahead and schedule or post it depending on which way I want to do that. So that is how easy it is to get your Quizizz into Google Classroom. You're going to start by clicking on classes on the left-hand side. You're going to click the classroom icon to sync them. You're going to want to do this every time you get some new students. You're going to resync it. So at the beginning of the school year, I just resync it every day. And then you're going to come up here to the search at the top, find whatever topic you're teaching. There's going to be at least 25,000 Quizizz already made on that. And then you just go ahead and assign it to your classes. And it's going to sync right in there. And whatever scores the students get are going to be put into Google Classroom for you. It has really great integration. All right, this Facebook user says, what I've seen is that the gamified quizzes seems to engage the students and focus them because they do want to compete. I noticed the exact same thing. I mean, it's the same questions. It's the same math questions. They're not very engaged with it when it was in the book. In Quizizz, though, they will try really hard. They'll do it again. We know gamification works. You can see that it works. If you use Quizizz, it becomes really obvious why I choose usually to use Quizizz instead of Google Forms, because Google Forms is not gamified and it gives the answers at the end. And I prefer that it gives them the answer while they're doing it. I think that's a lot more motivating. Thank you for that. Appreciate you participating. And if you have any questions about using this one, if you have any questions about using Quizizz, please feel free to drop them into the chat. Otherwise, if you will go to www.backtoclassroom.com, join the Facebook group and join the conversation. If you have more questions, you can post them in the Facebook group. And if you just have tips or questions about Google Classroom, please feel free to drop those into the group as well. All right, well, thank you for joining me. Please use Quizizz in Google Classroom, and also check out Moat and Schoolytics and see how all of these tools can help make your Google Classroom experience even better.